So we got a little bit more fallout about Parler. It was weird, right? This is the second video of the day, and normally I just write something funny on Parler and post out my link and add a bunch of hashtags, but I didn't have to do that. And it's not like I didn't want to have to do that. It's just you try to go to parler.com right now and it's gone. It's gone. We'll get into why it's gone and how they're trying to remedy the situation, but long story short, before we even get to the lawsuit, there's a lawsuit right now. You could tell by the thumbnail, obviously. Duh, I guess. But Parler put their faith in fucking Amazon, okay? Quite possibly, I don't know, one of the heads of the 5 big tech families. And if you don't play by their rules, they're just going to make sure that you sleep with the fishes. And Parler found that out very swiftly. And hopefully they come back soon because I like the platform, okay? Most of the people if you guys are watching this right now, you're not buying into the narrative that it's just the far-right echo chamber, because I also remember those same calls were being made about Gab, Minds.com, what's the name of some of them other websites out there? But yeah, they all get painted with the same broad stroke whenever they go up against that bearded jackass right there in the middle of your screen. No, this is a goatee. But as you can see here, Twitter shares dropped by 12% after company banned Trump. Yeah. It's funny, right? Because anybody who has just a little hint of business sense kind of seen this one coming from a mile away. Because if you also remember, taking a look back in 2016, Twitter was a dying platform until the power of Trump came along. Kind of like all of those news channels out there, they were sucking the ass of Barack Obama, and then they could come in and they could project all of their hate against Donald Trump and artificially propped up their ratings. It's not like anybody enjoyed watching CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News. Like I said before, up here in Canada, it's a little bit different. You only get CBC, CTV, Global News, but you do get, out of the big 3 in the States there, you do get a feed on CNN, and it's jarring to turn it on because for the past, 4 years, it's just been wall to wall. Any point in the day you could just flick over. If my cable box was actually plugged into the wall, you could just turn over there and then they'd just be saying, "Orange man is bad for reason. Off to you, Wolf. Thanks, Anderson." I don't know how their lineup goes, but it's, for all intents and purposes, that. Just one old white guy yelling about some old orange guy and then handing it off to another old white guy. Oh, and then there's a black homosexual in the evening. Whatever. If nobody commented, it's the only reason why CNN's relevant. Okay, this is a little bit of a sidebar before we get into all this stuff. If nobody talked about the ongoings at Fox News from a commentator or a podcast perspective, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, they would be gone. You take a look at their ratings, and fucking the likes of Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, even the stupid H3H3 podcast, they get so much more viewership. Like, their ratings, if you were to compare it 1-to-1, are better than most CNN, MSNBC, Fox News programming at any given time. Like, they'd be dead if nobody covered them. And that's why I don't like to talk about them very often. And the only time that it comes up is if they do something exceptionally stupid, and we can just have a quick, I don't know, like a 10-minute video laughing about how fucking dumb they are, like when Tubin pulled out his dick on camera. I don't get it. But then again, I don't have fucking 35% body fat and feel the need to fill my shoes twice a day. But yeah, Twitter went woke. Now they're going broke. Just kind of delayed the inevitable over the past 4 years. It might go down further, but this also might just kind of be their basement. Twitter's always had a problem with trying to monetize their platform, because how do you monetize speech? Facebook figured out a way, but they're kind of more of a video hoster and then a commentator underneath of that. So Twitter never quite figured it out, and they're going to find that out the hard way once they eventually just kind of outlive their usefulness and the Democrats just push them off to the side. But who knows? They'll probably just get artificially propped up by whoever else is in power, and you can see that with the way that all of the name bars on all of the mainstream media outlets always have a little Twitter handle at the bottom, and you'll follow them on Facebook and Twitter. And those are the people whose takes you wouldn't give a shit to listen to for 90 seconds, but at the same time you want to follow them for all of their great takes on the day's events. But yeah, it says here that they dropped 12% after the company banned Donald Trump and a slew of other conservatives, mostly just Trump supporters, to be completely fair. Shares dropped after the market opened on Monday, reaching a low of 45.7 or 45.17, $45.17, if I can say it for a third time. Twitter shares closed at, 51.48, so they even rebounded by over $6 before the end of the day. Oh no, sorry, that's in contrast to January 8th on Friday, so my mistake. Twitter said it removed Trump's account. Yes, who cares? And before we move on to the next thing, you got to take a look over here, just in their little preview column. The Epoch Times has ACLU warns of unchecked power after Facebook and Twitter suspend Trump. This is the same institution that defended the rights of Klansmen to march through town, and then anything that Trump touches, they won't get within 50 miles of, because they've been overtaken by Democratic not sponsors, but donators. Just another decline of a once great institution. And speaking of declining empires, Trump kind of has the same face that I have right now when I was looking at this headline to begin with, when German Chancellor Angela Merkel, a woman not necessarily known for her good takes on anything, managed to stumble into the free speech debate and land on the right side. This is the same woman who will not allow any sort of dissenting opinion against the migrant crisis that is led to the need of printing of pamphlets on how not to rape, not to mention the fact that you can't even display a swastika anywhere in Germany for, well, obvious reasons. Not that I necessarily agree with banning any sort of visual imagery, except for the picture of Nancy Pelosi. I think we can all do without that. I jest, of course, but let's take a look at what the Fuhrer had to say. At a press conference, the Chancellor's spokesman, Stefan Seibert, that's a harsh consonant in that name, stated that the German government leader found the social media's giant move problematic, while stating that social media companies nevertheless have a high responsibility to ensure that political communication is not poisoned by hatred, by lies, by incitement to violence, and that is something Germans know far too well. Merkel's spokesman went on to add that the Chancellor did not, however, believe that social media company management should be able to interfere with the right of freedom of expression. That's a weird take when you poison the well to begin with and then backtrack by saying social media platforms shouldn't be able to go back. Okay, let's go a little further. According to Seibert, companies should only intervene in freedom of expression along the laws and within the framework defined by the legislature. That's a really base take right there. I think that's what everybody who's balanced moral and principled just kind of thinks that illegal content should be removed from platforms and everything else should be fair game. Like, you take a look at some of my more, popular or inflammatory videos. Not that I ever have the expressed aim of making a fucking inflammatory video. I just make content based on whatever the fuck I want to talk about. But then you get especially on the, whatever it was, I think the second video that I did on the Nashville bomber there. Holy fuck, there are some crazy motherfuckers there. Probably my favorite exchange that I had there. There was a guy who said that the whatever downtown song was playing after the explosion. And then I went on to explain, it's like, yeah, I think it's just probably a dude who's a little bit off center. And then at the end of it all, he replied a few days later, I think you're mentally unstable. What? Or just if I ever make something about Q, and it's like, I think Sidney Powell's a little bit fucked up with some of her takes, and Lynn Wood's a bit of a nutter. Oh, you don't know your information. And then there was a guy, he said, okay, that he's flagged this for disinformation, and one of my good dudes, like, as much shit as I give the comment section, I could list off probably 24 people who I love talking to every single time you guys drop a comment. You guys know who you are because I try to take the time to acknowledge everything that you guys say, because it's nice to be appreciated, and hopefully I can reciprocate that in kind. But yeah, one of my regulars there, he commented back, and why don't you just go back and the exact same thing for everything that CNN posts. Fucking genius comment. I just had to highlight that as just somebody else who's fucking based. Like, that's the first time I can ever say that about Angela Merkel. Weird. But yeah, so now we got more of the fallout, and now we got onto Parler here, which, like I said before, I really like Parler, okay? It was a good platform. It didn't tell you what to look for. It just told you, hey, here's our community. fucking navigate it however you like. And there was no algorithmic manipulation that I could tell. There's been reports out there, so take that how you will, that it was moderated, but they were only getting rid of either explicitly illegal calls to violence or explicitly illegal material, which, like we kind of laid the groundwork for before, that is stuff that should be removed from the platform. I don't think anybody wants, cuties style photographs on their platform. And if you do, get the fuck out. Or explicit calls to violence, because as much as I'd like Nancy Pelosi's little head of her gavel there to just fly off and bonk her on the top of her head, I don't want somebody explicitly to go down there and say, hey, I want that to happen at this time of day and I will make sure that it happens. Otherwise, insert weapon of choice here. I think you can tell one's a joke, one is not an explicit call to violence unless you're a mallet manufacturer, and the other one is clearly something a little bit more wrong. And maybe the analogy is not perfect, but the long and short of it is, I don't want anybody to die, and I don't want anybody to be telling other people to die. I know we're really fucking breaking new ground here. But let's go to the guts of this. Let's go to the fallout from Parler. Now, I did my video yesterday telling you everything that went down. Now they're offline. You can't go there anymore because they stupidly put all of their servers in the hands of Amazon, which is far and away the largest server hoster in the world. They are twice as big as their next largest competition, and then they are twice as big as 3, 4, and 5. I think I got that right, but they are far and away. They are like the United States when it comes to military prowess. They are far and away larger than their next competition, not even close. But I can see what they're doing here, okay? Now, also in the fallout of this, Parler is suing Amazon Web Services after being forced offline. Another thing, I don't know if I covered this too, but all of Parler's lawyers backed out from them as well. So I don't know who's representing them during this lawsuit. I don't anticipate that they're going to be winning, but it's more important because they're suing for injunctive relief, immediate injunctive relief, in order to get their servers back online, because they're saying, like we'll get into here, they're suing for a breach of contract, okay? They could pull them off their servers if they violated their contract. This would be Parler violating the contract, but they have to give them 30 days to do so, and they clearly didn't. Now, if Parler is just suing in order to get that done, to get back online for 30 days and then find another web hoster, that would probably be the most likely scenario for this lawsuit. Of course, they want to win the lawsuit, okay? Of course, they want to get damages and whatever else they're suing for. But more importantly, they just want to buy some time in order to reverse this situation and get on a new platform. But here's the Post's breakdown. Parler sued Amazon cloud computing business Monday after the tech titan forced the controversial social network app to go dark. Nothing controversial about it. The 18-page complaint filed in Seattle federal court. Why would you file it in Washington? Oh my God, you guys, come on now. Claims Amazon Web Services' decision to stop hosting Parler was a politically motivated scheme to protect Twitter, another Amazon client, from competition. Yes, so they're suing under antitrust means. Amazon Web Services' decision to effectively terminate Parler's account is apparently motivated by political animus, the lawsuit reads. It is also apparently designed to reduce competition in the microblogging service market to benefit of Twitter. The suit came hours after AWS cut off Parler's access to the servers because of its failure to police the threats of violence that proliferated on the platform ahead of last week's pro-Trump, siege on the Capitol. As you can see here, the New York Post has made a decided editorial turn against the entire Trump movement. They were opening his support all the way up until the Capitol siege, and then, I don't know, I guess clicks of that AstroTurfed riot just kind of outweighed support for the actual truth. But whatever. Trump supporters and other right-wing activists have flocked to Parler since the November presidential election that Trump had constantly tried to undermine with baseless fraud claims. Oh my God, enough already, kids. The lawsuit suggests Amazon Web Services pulled the plug on Parler to save Twitter from a growing competitor weeks after the two companies signed a deal that would see AWS support the delivery of millions of daily tweets. Parler contends the decision was unfair given that violent threats also appeared on Twitter over the past week, to the extent of the phrase that hang ... Mike Pence ... Hopefully that gets through. became a trending topic according to the complaint. One of the many things, and like the Federalist had up there, and we went through that, I think that was yesterday as well. They have several accounts for Ayatollah Khomeini. Antifa actively organizes on the site. Black Lives Matter does all of their activism on there. The incoming vice president has said that the riots and the protests should not let up over the summer. AOC, like, literally, there's lists of people. But yeah, here's the last line. By silencing Parler, AWS silences the millions and millions of Parler users who do not feel their free speech is protected by Twitter, obviously, or other social media apps. The suit reads, what is more, by pulling the plug on Parler, but leaving Twitter alone despite identical conduct by users on both sites, AWS reveals that it has expressed reasons for suspending Parler's account are but pretext. Yeah, exactly. Amazon says, oh yeah, you're unwilling to moderate your accounts. You're unwilling to act like a publisher like Twitter does and take down dissenting opinions that we don't like, therefore we won't platform you. But I think you guys know, it starts with Parler. He tried to do this with many, many, many other websites before. One of the other really good examples is Patreon. Okay. Patreon, for those of you who don't know, is a monthly service, or you can subscribe by post. I don't know how some creators do it, but it's for creators to post content, or it's just a way that you can chip in a few dollars per month or per post, like I was saying there, in order to support the people that you enjoy online. Patreon takes a little percentage of that, obviously, as they provide the platform and the means to process payment. And they are a host to numerous people out there, okay? From web creators to people who create things, like tangible things, like little knickknacks, and even whores who haven't even made the jump over to OnlyFans yet. You can post exclusive content over there at whatever different tiers. Now, there was a content creator that was on there before, and many of you people who are watching this are probably well aware of this. A guy named Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin, as he's currently going by, runs the Lotus Eaters website, podcast, and channel as well. But he was deplatformed off of Patreon. I forget for the exact reason, but it was very much one of these type of situations where it was like, yeah, we kind of don't like you, so we're just going to go ahead and find different reasons to get you off of our platform. Now, if they were to just do that, Patreon was to just remove them for that. There's a few other different platforms out there that provide the exact same service, and you just move over there, and whatever, Patreon could just continue as a service to whoever the fuck is out there doing their thing. But that wasn't enough at the time, so Sargon went over to Subscribestar. Okay, they offer pretty much the identical type of service, just a chip in per monthly thing. But the activists who got him kicked off of Patreon went over to Subscribestar, started harassing Subscribestar. They wouldn't kick him off the platform because he hadn't done anything over there, so he was just going to sign up, and obviously Subscribestar stood to make a substantial amount of money based on the amount of patrons that would have been coming over to support him. So because they would be undeterred by this, and this is that slippery slope thing, they went after the payment processors of Subscribestar. Somebody else, or rather another company who has distanced themselves from the President of the United States. I won't let that one go. Stripe, the largest online credit card processor. And PayPal. I need not explain PayPal. I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with that. Yes, both pulled their payment processing methods off of Subscribestar, effectively killing them. They're back. They've made different and alternative means in order to process payments, but that's the type of stuff we're dealing with here. And especially when a server provider, somebody who would, I'm sure if you dug deep enough, you could find some really nefarious and some really awful websites that are using Amazon Web Services. They are the largest provider of servers online. So just because it was rumored that Trump was going to be going over to Parler, and Parler is obviously the heir apparent to Twitter once they decide that they're going to purge everybody who's not left of Mao, that they just had to, nip it in the bud. And like I prefaced this before we got into the article here, this lawsuit is more or less just trying to get immediate injunctive relief in order to get back online so they can find another web hosting service so they aren't down for an extended amount of time. I've heard reports that they're only hoping to be down by the end of the week, be back up. It could be a little bit longer. As you can see here, the Post is kind of reporting, but at the same time, as we went through this article, they're just kind of be hyperbolic fucking advocates at this point, because that's what media is kind of devolving into. Either you're in one camp or the other. But let's just say they get back online, okay? Let's just say they find another web hoster, yep, they get online, or they get their injunctive relief. Cool. But what if you start getting into the weird world of your web browser not being capable of accessing the website? What if your phone won't even let you access the website? What if your internet provider won't even allow you to access any website? It's coming. It's coming. First and foremost, Mozilla, because we're back in 2010. Everybody's still using Firefox. I don't know. I think I made the switch from Firefox, like 3 or 4 years ago. And yeah, I'm glad I did, because if I didn't make the switch then, I'd definitely be making it right now, because Mozilla chairwoman, we need more than deplatforming. Why don't you just call up Governor Cuomo? Because I hear he's setting up certain types of camps that you might be able to get in on. Maybe you can provide the security services for that. On Friday, the Mozilla Foundation, the non-profit organization behind the Firefox web browser, shared a list of additional actions intended to alter the dangerous dynamic of the internet. Remember using terms like our democracy? Well, it's our democracy because we're in charge and we can enforce whatever terms we want. And it's a dangerous dynamic because they're attacking our internet. That exact same principle is being applied to anything that they say, oh, we're just trying to look after our, and by I mean their entire thought process, claiming that temporarily silencing or permanent removal of bad actors from social media platforms is not enough. What do you suppose? Are you trying to take your cues from Lynn Wood? This week, we saw the culmination of a 4-year disinformation campaign orchestrated by the president. Tell us more about Russiagate. We have to acknowledge how the internet was misused to get here, and we have to change it. Straight from what I'm sure is the Mozilla official Twitter page, probably a blue check mark. I could check because I still have my Twitter page. I don't use it for anything. I haven't posted in like a week or so now, mostly because I don't care, and I won't delete it because it's helpful to know what the fuck they're talking about. But anyways, that's not important. This week, we saw the culmination. Yes. The attached article penned by Mozilla Chairwoman Mitchell Baker. I've seen a picture of this bitch too. Chairwoman is a strong term. Let's just say she definitely gets her haircut at the barber college, 40% off, and which appears on the Mozilla Foundation site. Blog claims that the rampant use of the internet to foment violence and hate and reinforce white supremacy is about more than any one personality. Why don't we just go back to the Black Lives Matter page and take a look at all of their supremacist rhetoric? After criticizing the president's reprehensible actions, the article then calls for more solutions. Probably one at the bottom where they would highlight as the final one. We need solutions that don't start after untold damage has been done, the essay continues. Not a little Mexican helper. Changing these dangerous dynamics require more than just a temporary silencing or permanent removal of bad actors from social media platforms. We want to remove your ability to access the internet, is the long and short of this. Reveal who's paying for advertisements, how much they're paying, and who is being targeted, so attacking their monetary stream. Commit to meaningfully transparent... Oh, that's funny that somebody on the left is calling for transparency when all they're about is obfuscation. Commit to meaningful transparency of platform algorithms so we know how and what content is being amplified to whom and the associated impact, so we can carefully craft our own echo chambers and everyone's perception of the world. Turn on by default the tools to amplify our facts, voices over disinformation. Work with independent researchers, yes, independent, just like those bipartisan committees, to facilitate in-depth studies of the platform's impact on people and our societies. We already know that they're using those algorithms, big tech is, Facebook, Twitter, in order to shape people's perception and reality, to influence more hate into their feed, to influence more negative content, because the more people see negative content, the longer they're going to be engaged in the platform. Okay, I don't know how many of you people have seen the Howard Stern movie Private Parts, okay? I'm going to quote from that because the movie's fucking hilarious, even though I didn't really watch or listen to Stern because I think he's terribly unfunny. He just has a really good networking strategy to surround himself with funny people. But what was it? The NBC head was talking to the program manager saying that people who liked Howard Stern would listen for 2 hours and whatever 10 minutes at a time, and their reason given that they'd listen for that long is because they were waiting to see what he would say next. And then he'd say that the people who hated Howard Stern would listen for 2 hours and 45 minutes. And why would they do that? Because they couldn't wait to hear what he had to say next. And that is the exact same logic that Twitter and Facebook implement in order to keep people engaged on their websites longer. Because if you have an uncle or if you have an aunt that is pro-Trump and they're posting their little fucking memes of him, you know, with a giant belt buckle riding on the tank with the fucking explosions in the background, the eagle buzzing overhead, after you've been spending days and days on your Russiagate research on the platform, that's just going to rally you up and keep you on there for a couple extra clicks. Or on Twitter, like I've done a little bit of research on this. Like, okay, back when Trump had his Twitter account and he'd have his little post there and you just kind of scroll through whatever his feed was, and then you take a look and you click on one specific post, and then the moment the tweet ends and it just goes a little bit lower than that, it is something hateful underneath, like, oh, you are bad man and your family is stupid. It would be a lot more colorful than that, but it wouldn't be much more substantive than that. They try to hook you however you can. That's why social media is stupid. But yeah, so Mozilla wants to purge the internet of wrongthink. And like I said before, internet service providers might not even let you go to certain pages because, as we see here, this was done in response to President Trump being kicked off, and the population voted for it. And I don't like this at all, because I don't want anybody telling me where I can and can't go. And if it's being weaponized because somebody likes it at the time, doesn't mean that somebody else can come into power and use it for reasons that you won't like it going ahead into the future. So as you can see here, Idaho internet provider blocks Facebook and Twitter, and it's got, scary picture of Mark Zuckerberg looking a little bit shaken. An internet service provider in North Idaho and Spokane, Washington area has decided to block Facebook and Twitter for its customers after some called in to complain about the censorship on its platforms. I hate this. The internet service provider, your T1 Wi-Fi, confirmed that it will block Facebook and Twitter from its Wi-Fi service for some customers starting this Wednesday, according to the report by the local affiliate. The move comes after Twitter permanently banned President Trump. It has come to our attention that Twitter and Facebook are engaged in censorship on our customers and information. So in turn, we're going to censor them back. No. Okay, there's two ways you can go with bad ideas. Engage them and convince them that what they're doing is wrong, or maybe, you know what, they'll convince you that your ideas are wrong, and both people walk away from the situation in a better situation. Or you can just look at somebody who has such a terrible idea and just not engage them. And maybe at a future point when they decide to get off that super radical pedestal and you want to engage them, then by all means, but don't tell me that door is closed forever. I don't want you to tell me where I can and can't go. But remember, censorship is always presented with this veneer of, won't somebody please think of the children? Because yeah, one of the emails that the ISP received, we have the past couple of days been fielding calls from customers voicing concerns that they do not want these sites allowed to be displayed on their internet feed to them, and that they do not want, here it is, their children to go to these sites. Yup, won't somebody please think of the children? How about parents do their fucking job? But you can't just yell that because for a multitude of reasons, because people are too fucking lazy. But yeah, I fully anticipate the slippery slope to get even slipperier. That's a word? Probably. Into the near future here, as we've got another, 8 full days and a couple hours of a Trump presidency that'll quickly get Stalined out of existence with Biden's first radical 100 days. And I think that'll probably be the final video of the day because he picked his theme. Oh boy, it's like a small child picking the theme for his birthday party. And you literally can't make this kind of shit up. But we'll get to that in the next video anyways, because it's just as Orwellian as you could possibly think it was. But yeah, they aren't going to settle at just getting rid of Parler. They want it totally destroyed, driven underground, never to be seen by the masses again. But that's not how you get rid of bad ideas. If you think that Parler's a bad idea, you get rid of them by allowing them to ferment and explode in on themselves, just like Twitter's going to do. And that is one prognostication I'm pretty sure I'm going to get right. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.